Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Data Unchained. I'm your host, Molly Presley. For those of you who are new to this podcast overall, let me tell you a little bit what we talk about. The idea of Data Unchained is really focusing on if you could harness all of the decentralized and distributed data that exists in your environment, what kind of insights, business results, business efficiencies could you gain? So as data has become increasingly decentralized to across applications, the edge, clouds, different types of devices, it's becoming increasingly complicated. And we like to talk about, with guests on the show, about some of the tools and solutions to make this project to really gather your decentralized data and use it easier, as well as some of the business benefits you can get by doing that. So today's guest is Tom Ryan. He is the CEO of Bigly Sales. Tom, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Molly. I really appreciate it.
So, Tom, before we talk about Bigly Sales, which I love that name, it's very fun, tell us a little bit about yourself and as the CEO of the company, kind of what is your role at the company?
So, really strategic direction's the role. I actually grew up in the staffing industry and, running outbound call centers. I had a business that, I grew to about 100 employees previously. And, I would see all the difficulties with running a sales team. And I really liked dealing with the technology side of things. So I got rid of that business. It's still operating, but I'm just not involved. And now I'm working on this full time. So
an entrepreneur at heart.
Yeah, I guess.
Some of us are not. I'm always impressed by folks who can just start up companies and then hand them off and do another one. It's amazing. Tell us about Bigly Sales. What do you do? What is your product, your offering, the problems you solve?
The big thing that we're doing is we're automating the call center with AI. We're replacing a lot of the call center roles with AI. And then we also have a CMS that hooks to that, which is our front end and our lead magnet. So leads can flow in automatically through that and go directly to the AI. And the AI can do scheduling. The AI can do intake. It can do qualifications. It can collect payments, collect donations, send contracts. Really, if you think of it, we can probably program the AI to do it now with voice as well as with SMS.
So does that mean when you say automating the call center with AI, is that the back-end processes? Is it who a person needing support or maybe making a purchase is interacting with? What part of the workflow are you automating?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So let me go through something that's an easy use case that a lot of people are doing right now, which is a scheduling use case. And it would be, there was a heavy rain last night. All of a sudden you see that there's a leak and water dripping on your floor. Well, you want to get someone out to your house as quickly as possible. So you pick up the phone and you call, and instead of talking to a human, you're going to get a voice that sounds human. It sounds like you or it sounds like me. And it says, "Hi, this is XYZ Plumbing. How can I help you?" Or "XYZ Roofing. How can I help you?" And the person then goes and says what the problem is that they're having. And it says, "Great. Are you the homeowner?" And they say, "Yes." It says, "What's your address?" And they give them the address. And then it says, "Okay, we have a spot available tomorrow at noon. Can you meet us at noon at your house to get a roofing estimate to get that fixed?" And if the person says yes, it schedules them to that time. And if they say no, it'll schedule a time, in the future when there's some availability on the calendar. And it'll go and schedule that technician to come out to the house. So it'll automate that whole process. Now, the fun things about this is it can do that 24/7, 365 days a year. We can do it in English. We can do it in Spanish. We can do it in other languages if we want to. But English and Spanish are the primary use cases that we get. So
no more voicemails and waiting for a call back. You get that kind of immediate response, as well as knowing how long do you have to wait with the buckets under the water.
And from a business standpoint, if you're doing something with the consumers and you don't go get back to people within an hour, your close rate is going to drop somewhere between 90 and 95%. So with the example I just gave, if you have a roofing business, they're not going to wait for you to get back to them for a couple of days while the water's dripping on their floor.
Right?
They're going to go to the next one on the
respond.
list.
Yeah.
That's right. And it's the same with most of these things. If I need my health insurance, again, if I call and I leave someone a message and I don't hear back from them within a few minutes, I'm probably going to go to the next one on the list. I mean, it's the same with all of these. You're not going to wait around for a business. So being able to respond 24/7, 365 has a huge amount of value to the business and also makes for a happier consumer. No one likes having to call 20 different places to try to get something done.
So you used the roofing example, but I know this is applicable technology to all kinds of different types of businesses or types of offerings. How broad? Are you primarily for businesses working with consumers? Is it a business-to-business tool? What's the range of customers you tend to have using your technology?
It's more B2C than B2B. Just because those are who generally have the big call centers and
right.
less of a relationship type sale. If I'm dealing with someone on a business-to-business basis, I'm probably going to be dealing with them a little more ongoing versus, if I need solar panels, it's a one-time thing. If I need roofing, it's probably a one-time thing. So a lot of these things that are relatively non-differentiated, right, where speed to lead and effective marketing are really the differentiators. This is just awesome for. But we're doing it for insurance. We have some insurance clients right now, health insurance, life insurance, things like that, a lot of scheduling type use cases. We're actually going to be doing this for some political campaigns as well, which I'm really excited about. We just signed up. I can't really talk about it yet, but we just signed up a political campaign that I'm super excited about. We signed up a big staffing client, which I'm excited about. So there's a lot of different use cases for this where the AI can do the work of a human and really do a better job. Now, it might not have the banter down quite as well, right, where you can kind of joke around a little bit with each other.
I can't invite your AI to my podcast yet.
Yeah, I mean, you probably could. It's going to be a little tougher, right? We still got to, it's not a magic box. It's still a computer, and we got to program it and tell it what to do and, what to say. But it's gotten so good with language. It can take that unstructured data that you're talking about and understand it, right? And, I heard the CEO of Box talking about this the other day. Most of the data out there is unstructured data. So now there's 10 times more data that you can access and do things with. But it's not great at doing that stuff. But here's some things it can do. We can have it remember every question. We can have all of that stuff saved to a CRM where it just then goes and remembers everything automatically. So rather than a person going in and looking, going through the notes and seeing what it said last time, right, it can go in and check and see what the call was 6 months ago and everything that was said on that call and remember it perfectly. We can hook it up to a document retrieval system. We call these a RAG system. And you can go and we can feed it tens of thousands of pages of documentation and have it go and pick out the right technical thing when someone needs it. So I think one of the best use cases for AI just in general is technical support. That if you haven't tried this yet, next time you have a problem with something on your computer, just punch it into Claude or ChatGPT and see how it does. I mean, it's going to be probably faster and easier than any other thing you can imagine to fix it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about kind of the AI process. When you think about training your environment, what data sources are you feeding into your technology? How are you training it to know about plumbing versus insurance versus the latest political campaign where things are changing all the time? Different types of data for sure.
So there's a couple of different ways we can do it, right? You can train a model from scratch, which for most people is going to be prohibitively expensive. They're saying that training the next version of ChatGPT is going to be in the billions, right? So if you don't have a couple of $1 billion lying around to do it, you're probably not going to train a model like that. even if you could train a full model, I don't know if you would want to. What a lot of people are doing is what they call fine tuning, where they're taking a smaller data set and they're training it on that particular thing, or they're just feeding the data in. So right now, the context window on these models keeps expanding and expanding. The one Google just announced is 1,000,000 tokens, and a token is a word, right? So it can handle 1,000,000 words. I can't handle 1,000,000 words, right? Not like maybe you can handle 1,000,000 words, but I certainly can't remember 1,000,000 words worth of stuff. Like it's a ton, and I forget the latest on the other ones, but they're in the hundreds of thousands. They're all in the hundreds of thousands now for Claude and ChatGPT. And again, Google's coming out with one that's 1,000,000, or it just came out, and then there's another one in the pipe that is about 10,000,000. So pretty soon, within the next 6 to 12 months, all of these tools are going to be handling context windows that are 1,000,000 plus words, which is just a massive amount of data. So we can feed that data into it, and that's what we're doing. We'll take a company, we will have a bunch of variables that we lay out, right? And the variables will be, well, what's the name of the company? What's the role of the AI bot going to be? Their title in the organization. What's their personality going to be? Because we can give it a little bit of a personality to have it, feel a little more human, right? So what type of personality are we going to give it? What language, what voice do we want to give it? We'll feed all that information in. And then all of the frequently asked questions, the why us, the company history, right? We'll take all of that data and we'll push that in, and then we'll tell it, use this as the sole source of truth. And then we have, a prompt that is a couple hundred lines right now, of natural language. And then we call a bunch of other things as well. And, we're setting it up to split it into different sections. So we have a piece that just does the scheduling, and we have a piece that does, collecting money or sending a Stripe link. And then we can kind of plug and play with these things where, the goal is to be, hopefully we're here shortly, that when a new client comes on board, most of them, unless they're doing something totally custom, we can get them set up in about 10 minutes.
Wow.
Right.
And are
Maybe
they supplying a lot of documentation like the FAQs, or is that something you kind
100%.
of start with basic 100%. Stuff that you already know? Okay, so they supply the docs, the information, you start with
they know
that.
what they are. If they have a call center with 100 guys in it already, they already know the questions they get asked. They already know how to answer those things. So we can take any of their training material that they already have, and we can feed that to the AI. We might have to rewrite it a little bit. Right. We want to make sure it's a question, not a declarative statement. We made that mistake the other day where we wrote something as a declarative statement instead of a question. And the AI thought like it had to do this every time. Right. So there's still, just like when you're training people, you can get it wrong. It's funny that the little tiny changes to the prompt that you'll make, which sometimes will just throw it absolutely into haywire, and then we have to throw through the traditional testing process like we do with everything else. Make sure that any changes we made didn't break something, because that happens every once in a while, right? And put it through that standard, testing pipeline, and then test all the different features and make sure they're working and we're getting the right responses. But yeah, the real idea is you can train it once and then just keep leveling up.
So, and then let's talk about kind of like the iteration process, or, as there's new material coming out, or is the customer, the vendor who you sell to, updating you with new information? Is it updating itself based on the types of questions being asked? Like how much of this is, after the initial load of data, is it training itself based on its own experiences versus humans providing more information?
So it doesn't work that way right now. What we have to do is, and it's not us. OpenAI doesn't work this way. Claude doesn't work this way. Gemini doesn't work this way. None of them work this way. You actually have to retrain it if you want new information in there, or you have to feed that information in. And the fastest, easiest way that we're handling it is actually taking the data and feeding it back in. So We'll take the history of every chat that you've had. We'll take the transcript of every call that you've had, and we will push that data back into it so it remembers. But it's remembering because every time that it sees your phone number pop up, it's automatically getting that data pushed in of the last call that you had with it. And, it's a computer. It can read this almost instantaneously.
So it offloads companies from maybe having to do as much ongoing documentation that once your service is in place, you're capturing new questions, different ways that problems are being diagnosed, and kind of updating the AI with that versus the company necessarily having to document as much as they were in the past. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and then that's a lot of the stuff that we're building out right now as well.
That's very cool.
Hey, what's every question that you've been asked? What are the answers? What are the best answers? What are the calls that converted? Right? What do the people look like on the calls that converted? How old are they? What's their gender? What's their religion? What's their political preference? What's how many kids do they have? What are their hobbies? Are they into rock climbing? Right? That we can take all of that data as well and now start putting together a profile on who is actually buying so they can go back and do a better job in marketing and do a better job of, getting their message to the people who are actually going to buy, the product or service as well.
So you start to touch on personal information, personal data. Do you get involved much in regulatory compliance concerns?
So we do everything in a TCPA compliant way. I don't know how many people know this, but privacy is dead. It's buried. They had the parade already. Everyone's gone home. It's so dead right now. I can't even tell you. So everything.
And you say that because everything's been loaded into the web, LLMs, those types of things.
Yeah, it's all out there. I can literally take pretty much any search that you can think of and pull up a list of people that fit that criteria. I mean, if you come up with something based on income, based on geography, based on, the value of a home, credit score, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, how many kids they have, whatever, we can pull that, we can put a list together, and we can start marketing to that list.
And when you say marketing, you spend a fair bit of time kind of talking about the experience when you have a problem or the call center experience. How is your tool used in marketing, pushing emails out, that type of thing?
We can put together any sort of data that people want, and then they can use that for targeting, right? And they can put out ads on TikTok, they can put out ads on Facebook, they can put out ads anywhere that they want. So we have a lot of people that want data from us. A lot of clients that want data that, although it's all out there, a lot of people don't really know how to put it all together. So we can put it all together for them, including people calling in. So as soon as someone picks up the phone and calls, we can tell you their credit score, right? Within a second of that phone call coming in, I can tell you their address, their credit score, their email, right? Their net worth, in a range. So by the time someone looks at a screen, all that data is already there. That's already there and available. So a lot of clients are interested in getting that sort of data. And we're actually releasing a new version of our CMS, our website builder, that has all of that built into it as a tool that as a small business, you can go and see who's actually coming to your website. A lot of this we can get, about half the time we can actually get it from someone just hitting our landing page. All the data that I was just talking about, that we can literally see their credit score from them hitting our landing page. If we want to start a drip campaign with email, you can start a drip campaign with email. As far as SMS or having the AI actually call someone, the way the law is written for the TCPA, and we do everything to the letter of the law, is we need them to give us consent. They have to give us a phone number. So as soon as someone has consented to getting calls, right, or texts or whatever, we will follow up with them. And then if you say stop, we stop following up with them, right? So that's what the TCPA rules say, and we do it to the letter of the law.
So when a company implements your technology, it sounds like there's the automation, not just of engaging with customers, but of marketing. It's also customer support documents. There's, it's kind of the definition of multiple decentralized data sets, going back to the podcast title. Where do you store all of this? Are you keeping storage repositories for each of your own customers? Is this aggregated public data? Because they're providing you with data. I'm curious, kind of, where does this data actually live?
Short answer is it lives in AWS.
Okay.
Right? That most of it is just stored there. If we're talking about something that is sensitive data, right? We take data, security unbelievably seriously. And there's a lot of things like, I'm not going to touch credit card data. We'll send a Stripe link. I'll let Stripe worry about that. Right? If there's another, yeah, I mean, if there's something else, that they want to send out, like that, a Plaid or whatever, we'll let them deal with that, and we'll just make sure that the text message gets out or the phone call gets out. But we're not going to take credit card data over the phone. As far as where we store it, everything's in AWS. If we're talking about something like HIPAA, maybe we need to do encrypted rows on everything. Maybe we need to make sure that there's only a handful of people who have access to that. We might need to set it up so, none of our offshore employees can even touch the database, that it's 100% divorced from everything else. So it really depends on the customer. I can tell you all of our customers take security very seriously. We built everything with a security first background. When I first started this company, before we were doing the AI, back in 2020, when we first opened our doors, we started off as a pretty open platform, and we had every kind of person on earth who wanted to do shady things try to come to our website and, cause problems. So I always tell people, however much fraud you think is on the internet, it's significantly worse. I think over, 50% of the transactions that were attempted in the first year that we were in business were fraudulent.
Wow.
People would come, and they would come with a credit card, and the credit card would be stolen, right? And, it would be Mike Smith from Topeka, Kansas, except the guy happened to be, coming in from the Gaza Strip or Nigeria or India or so, it was somewhere that I was pretty
Definitely
sure Mike Smith from
Kansas.
Topeka, Kansas wasn't going on vacation to.
Yeah.
Like, on vacation, I just decided I was going to buy some credits to send some emails, and, it just, nonsensical, right? So anyway, yeah, we take the privacy stuff unbelievably seriously. We do penetration testing a few times a year, to make sure there's no ways in. We hardened all the APIs. We have a bunch of security tools that we use, like Snyk, and do really security-first development. And then, we use a ton of tools to look at this stuff. We use Sentry, we use Snyk, and then even from the other side of, God forbid you're running paid ads, we have checkpoint on all the paid ads to make sure that we're not getting fraudulent people from Google and Facebook and those places, because if you're not paying attention, you'll just get overrun with that stuff. We block
Absolutely.
anything coming in from a VPN. We block anything coming from an Amazon data center. A lot of that traffic, it's all fraudulent. So
yeah, save your spend for the real people that you actually want to be seeing
well,
your ads,
at one point, we were getting more people from Ashburn, Virginia than lived in Ashburn, Virginia.
Interesting.
Right, and the same thing with Cheyenne, Wyoming, and Moses Lake, Idaho. Right, it's not because, I was like, why are there 10,000 people coming on my site from Moses Lake, Idaho today? Right, and we figured it out. It took a little while.
You have successfully built a technology around AI, Gen AI, a lot of the tooling and everything around it. Lots of companies are still trying to figure this out. What kind of tips do you have? Clearly worrying about security is a big deal and some of the things you've touched on, but for those who are just getting started and wanting to use AI, do Gen AI within their technology, where do they start? A lot of companies really are struggling with this.
We stood on the shoulders of giants. So, OpenAI, I don't know exactly how much they have spent on this so far, but it's in the tens of billions of dollars. And, the hubris to think that from, my office, without tens of billions of dollars behind me, I would be able to, build a better model than them with the full backing of Microsoft or than Claude with the full backing of Amazon. I just think it's impossible without just a huge amount of dollars behind you. So where I would start is I would start by looking at the big boys. I would, get an API. I would hook into Claude. I would hook into OpenAI. You could try Mistral, or you could stand up something like Llama, which is Facebook's. And, I would start there, right? I would start by seeing what you could do with this. What this is really good at is taking unstructured data and making it useful. I can give you a couple of use cases. I was talking to some friends in my AI group down here in Miami the other day, and what they were doing is they were taking orders that were being sent in via email, and they were taking the order that was coming in, and then they were moving that to another computer system using the AI and doing the dispatching.
Okay.
Right? So it was one written thing here being transferred to another written thing here, but it was taking people a half hour every time to do this, and there would be errors and there'd be problems, and the AI was able to do it in a couple of seconds with much fewer errors. Right? So anything there's people taking data from one place and put in another place, there's probably an opportunity for AI to do that better, faster, and cheaper.
Right.
Another thing for your business, if you're spending money on graphic designers, right, you should probably stop and have one person with a Figma account or a Canva account go and start using OpenAI to do it, or start using Midjourney to do it. And you can create great graphics and then layer anything on top. So, this is literally something my daughter does, right? She's going into 5th grade next year. And everyone in her 4th grade class was able to basically do this using these tools. So it's a little complicated, but, every 4th grader in her class was able to do it. To give you, an idea. This isn't calculus. This isn't quantum mechanics. This is stuff, grade school kids can do. So I would start using it for that. If you're not writing content, you use it to write the content, and then you have a person proofread it and spruce it up a little and make sure it makes sense. And you can use it for content generation. That's another beautiful, very simple use case that every business can do. If you're not using the AI tools for data scraping, if you have people gathering data anywhere, the AI can scrape that data. You can scrape tens of thousands of rows of data, in minutes. And it costs almost nothing. You're talking taking hundreds of man hours and condensing it down to, an hour. So that's another great use case if you have people doing that sort of thing. Anything with writing, whatever, you can have people do that. So those are just some easy ones. But really, anything that you have a bunch of people doing manual tasks in a business, you can probably, if they're doing tasks on a computer, the AI can probably do it today better, faster, and cheaper.
And what kind of roles over at Bigly do you have in your technical team doing the AI work? If you just job titles, is it a big group? Is it a small group when you think about how you're staffing building this product?
So we had started out building everything in a PHP framework called Laravel.
Okay.
And then we realized that wasn't probably ideal for the AI stuff, so we had to develop the Python tools, the Python skill set in-house. Right, so we have a mix of people who are Laravel engineers and Python engineers internally. That would be the main things that we're doing right now.
Okay.
By the way, for AI, if you're not using it for coding, probably can't do a full project for you quite yet, but if you need to make a button or if you need to make a screen or if you need to do something with it, like anything, for like graphics on the front end, it's a solved problem. It's really easy for it to do. You could build a simple app right now. It's great at doing documentation, which engineers hate doing, right? It's great at taking code and explaining what that code does. So even if you're non-technical, if someone gives you a piece of code, you can say, hey, test this. We're using, I'm trying to think of the name off the top of my head. It's CodeRabbit, I believe, for testing right now. So
Okay.
there's a rabbit in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, CodeRabbit sounds right.
But we're using this for testing, and we run it through every time, make sure there's no conflicts. And in a couple of seconds, it tells us if there's any conflict with that code and anything else that we're doing. If you're getting technical errors, you can run it through there and say, hey, I got this error. What does this mean? Right? For anything on your computer. That's an awesome use case for it. That, how you get that weird error. Sometimes it spits out something and your computer just doesn't work right. And you're like, why is this not working? Right? Oh, you have this 404 error. What the hell's a 404 error? You put it in and it works, right? It tells you what it is, and we'll generally tell you how to fix it. You can just ask, well, how do I fix this? So, well, this means this is happening, and this is how you fix it. And it's almost always right.
So as we think about customers, businesses who are interested in deploying your technology, any kind of boundaries on size of company you work with, types of markets, anything like that, as folks listening are thinking maybe this is right for me?
Really where we're focused right now, and we'll probably move down to smaller companies a little later on when this is more mature. But right now we're focused on slightly larger enterprises that we're really looking for at least 10 or 20 people in a department doing something for this to make sense.
Okay.
It's just those are the folks that can really get some value from it. So if you have 10 leads a day coming in, you handling that phone call, yeah, maybe there's a little bit of value there, but probably not that much. You just, or 10 leads a week or a month or whatever, 10 a day, maybe you get there. But if it's something where you have a big call center of folks and, you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on call center employees or millions of dollars on call center employees, we can cut that cost 90%. We can make it run 24/7. We can improve the outcomes for that, and we can program it to do whatever you want, where then you have perfect information on this. You have a recording of every call. You have a transcript of every call. You have a segment with every question answered, right? You get data insights on it. You know who the customers are. You can start running, analysis on who your customers are if you don't know this stuff already. So if someone's absolutely giant, maybe they have all this data, but a lot of the mid-sized companies we're talking to, they just don't yet, right? They kind of sort of know, but they don't really know.
Okay, perfect. And if folks want to get in touch with you, is your website the best place to go? It's bigleysales.com, I believe.
Go to bigleysales.com, and there's a phone number on there. You can call it. You can play around with the AI. You can see how it sounds. So just go there and check us out.
Great. And Tom, thank you for joining today's show. Also for sharing. You've kind of rolled your sleeves up and dug into the technology. And it's really great to have folks like you on to share kind of your journey and how you can get started, as well as some of the outcomes you can have with an actual product in the market. So we really appreciate you taking time to share your experiences with us.
All right. Thank you so much, Molly. I really appreciate you having me today. This was great.
Thanks for listening to Data Unchained, powered by Hammerspace. To learn more, visit hammerspace.com. If you have a guest you would like to hear on the show, email me at molly@hammerspace.com.